What's up? I'm Walker Robinson with Your Neighbors, and I'm hanging out with Front Row Live.
What's up, guys? Rob here, hanging out here with Walker of Your Neighbors, and I'm super excited to be talking to you, man. I got introduced to your music recently, and I've actually been really enjoying your sound. It's definitely something fresh, but I love the fact that when I listen to different tracks, it's nothing similar. It's always like you're testing the waters over and over, and it's just incredible. Before we really dive in and talk about your music, I want to know about this tour with Alfie. What was this experience like for you, and how do you feel that it allowed you to become a better artist, better performer, but also a better songwriter during this experience?
I've loved doing the support slot.
Mhm.
I've never done it before. This is like the first time we've ever like gone out on the
Yeah.
road with like another artist, like not being the headlining slot, and like it's been great. Like we've been treated like royalty,
Yeah.
more so than our headliner tours,
Wow.
which is very funny. I mean, I don't know like what that is, but like yeah, especially in DC,
Yeah.
the spot that we played, like they brought us like cupcakes, they had like a pizza spread and everything like that. So like as far as just a general experience, it's been great. And Alfie and those dudes are just like hella cool too. So
Yeah.
like that makes like a big difference because like I don't know, some people are hellions on the road, but like they've been super friendly and like very accommodating, just like more so than most people would ever be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never met a British person I didn't like, so like, I think it's like a big piece of that. But yeah, they're great. I mean, I'm trying to think like musically, it is kind of fun to see like what they bring to the table. Like there's such a big performance like aspect to like what they do, and like it's just funky music, man. They just like really make cool stuff, and like I love like funk shit. But like yeah, they just bring like a cool energy, and like people are like dancing like the whole sets and stuff. And I like to go like a little like to the wilder sides of music sometimes, and like it's kind of cool to like just see somebody that's just like, man, people just like want to dance, give them what they want.
Yeah.
And so like I feel like it's kind of like encouraging me to maybe not go off the beaten path all the time.
Yeah.
And, just probably make something a little bit more accessible, or like maybe not as commanding of your attention as much, to like kind of like find that. But like this new album that we're working on is, and it's done now, is very bizarre. It goes a bunch of different places.
Nice.
So you won't hear that influence probably till the next shit, working
Okay.
with, it was noticing what I've had with Alfie. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it that I've really enjoyed. Actually, pretty much everything about this tour has been great and like very chill. It's not a lot of what do you call it? I don't know.
There's no egos. It's just everybody's just being themselves.
Oh yeah, and then even just beyond that too, of just like the logistics of moving from spot to spot.
Yeah.
And like it's just been way more relaxed. Sometimes maybe it's like the headline spot. Sometimes is like you've got to handle all the advances and stuff. Pretty much we just kind of like, they say go here, we go there.
Yeah.
And it's like way easier to schedule things. So.
That's awesome, and I'm glad you got that kind of experience and got to bring that music out to different places, different venues. Right now, currently, you just dropped the new single Dogma, which. Like I mentioned earlier, every single has a different kind of feel, a different kind of vibe. And I really love that about your music. I'm curious for you as a songwriter, what really kickstarted the writing process for Dogma? And was this like a natural kind of process for you? Or was this something that you were trying to get out, but just didn't know how to put it to paper and then eventually to song?
Well, Dogma specifically, like I was working on this concept. The album's a concept album essentially. And there was like a moment that I really wanted to like really accent that was like kind of more specific to me. Like there's like a lot of like religious themes and stuff in that song. And like for me, it's like the uncertainty of like the existential stuff. Like, if you kind of like live your life in a more religious way, but then it doesn't serve you in the way that you thought it would. It's like, does that really mean much to you? And so there's kind of like a moment where they kind of like turn their back on the project. It's like the third song, I believe, in the track list. So there's like more to the story after that, but like they kind of dive headfirst in the more like hedonistic type of behaviors of like, well, if this is my life, I'm going to do it the way that I, want to do it. Like, why am I going to pray to something that I can't even see, or maybe doesn't even have an impact in my life at all? And like, but it's more of like an admission of like, just like not knowing, what happens after this. And like, like you can only work with what you've got, on a human level. Like we're just ants on a hill, know, or whatever. So like, how much can you really know? And that whole existential thing, you can dig and dig and dig, and there's never really a good answer at the end of the day. So it's like, but yeah, this whole album is pretty much based on all those existential crises that I've had. So it's all kind of like that moment on Dogma is basically just me trying to get that idea out to some degree of like just the uncertainties of life. And ultimately when you decide what your path is, whatever your compass is, and you choose to go down that, that's like kind of like how the trajectory of the album starts to go left. Because this is
Mm.
like a very like that song specifically is like the calmest song on the whole album. So like
Yeah.
everything after that, it just hits the skids. Like you're getting like dubstep drops or screamo
Nice.
moments and everything like that too. So
I
like,
dig that.
yeah, yeah, I love screamo. That's like always on like a regular part of like my rotation
Yeah.
in general. And like I know screamo in the metal world, they like hate that as a descriptor, but like I don't know. That's all I've got. I mean, I love like Knocked Loose and like even like the old metalcore stuff, like
Nice.
Asking Alexandria, where every
Yes.
metalhead would be like, "That's not real metal." I'm like, dude, it's sick. Like they throw like electronic shit into the screamo parts. Like that's super cool. And like, you know, obviously there's like Lamb of God and stuff too, like big
Yeah.
influences as well when it comes to the metal stuff. But I don't know. It's like, how do I pan my fan base as hard as possible? It's like, because they were like, they hear Chicken and then they hear like another song on the album and they're like, this sucks.
What
I
is
don't want to
going
listen
on
to this.
right now?
Like, I was hoping for more like Dayglow type songs, and instead
Yeah.
you're yelling at me all the time. So.
But that's the beauty of it, because I mean, for me at least, the song that really resonates to me the most is Sideways, because it's kind of chaotic to me, like, and it takes me back to those Warped Tour days, to those Asking Alexandria days, where I would like, I just listen to chaotic music.
Sure.
And I feel like you do this with it because it's like you're bouncing from different types of sonics on this track, but you're also giving me like different types of vocal ranges as well, from just regular melodies to those crazy falsettos. So your creative process, I guess, since we are talking about Sideways, your creative process, do you feel like it's evolved much from Sideways, or do you feel like Sideways kind of guided you to how you create your music today?
Well, I mean, Sideways is like a kind of left field for the catalog, I think, in general. I mean, for most of the music that like we make, if like we're working on like a specific sound or something,
Yeah.
I'm gonna write the song based on the backdrop of like what we're kind of going for.
Right.
And so like every song is like kind of like a case by case basis, like unless it's an album. Like this one we had to be like really nuanced with like what we were trying to attack from like track to track. Sideways though is a really cool like I don't really know how to describe it, but like Sideways just has like all these like weird moments in there. Like,
yeah, there's a
all
lot of
these
experimentation.
interludes. Yeah, there's like literally a piss track in there that we comped for the record.
That's
too.
hilarious.
There's 2 different people pissing, and we like crossfaded them in and stuff. Just like one for like distance, like length of time, and then one for like the velocity of how hard they were peeing. And, I mean, that's just like we just get.
I'm curious what that mic setup was like.
Oh yeah, we spent like an SM7 over the toilet, dude, and then just like let it fly. 2 of us went in there, and yeah, it was pretty funny. I won't say who peed harder, or who peed longer, dude. That's for you to decide. But either way, like it's like, and then finding those weird outros and stuff where like the beat switches into like halftime or whatever, and like all those dubstep sounds kind of come in, like the heavy bass. Like I don't know, it's like pretty. Actually, I saw a comment on YouTube where somebody was like, it's a shame that there's this like pissing interlude in this dumbass outro, because like this is the best music I've ever heard. It's like, that's kind of cool, because like I love to see when people like hate certain parts but like other parts or whatever, but they're all just kind of like facets of the sound, which is like ever evolving. So like I don't know, just kind of following your gut instinct and just kind of see where the song takes you. And it is always like, even like I feel like I never finish a song fully. They say like, was like art's never finished, it's only abandoned.
Right.
Like there's still certain things that I'd love to go back in and tweak and stuff, but like it kind of reaches a finality eventually where it's just like, how much more good are we doing for this song? We should probably just stop and, you know, get it mixed and put it out.
Right.
So but yeah, Sideways specifically, yeah, I don't know if it really informed a whole lot, except for me just to like continue to experiment further with random sounds. And like that song is like now I think in the top 3, at least at the time of filming this, of like our songs on Spotify. When it came out, like, you know, at this point like 3 years ago, didn't really get that many streams, so it's kind of funny to see that come to the forefront all of a sudden.
Yeah, I feel like it's always like a certain time. It depends on the time. Is this the right time for this kind of sound? Is this the right time for this kind of track? So it's kind of cool that it's kind of getting its little resurgence in a sense.
And like Spotify's algorithm is weird like that. Like I feel like sometimes like it takes a while for it to catch. Like I would always joke that like you don't really know how good your song was based on streams, you know, until like 5 years later.
Yeah.
Because you never know when it's going to catch. Like Chicken, our most popular one, came out like 2018. It didn't see really any streams at all till like 2021.
Wow.
And so like, yeah, it's just weird like that, but just keep putting out music. Hopefully people find it, I guess, is the mantra.
No, it's cool. It's cool that you don't stop. Just keep trying it. With this upcoming album, the sophomore record, the fact that you've dropped 2 songs already off of it, do you feel that, I mean, was it difficult to figure out which 2 songs or which were the first introductions to this album, just because you did mention it's kind of a concept album?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty clear which ones would be most likely the singles, just because of like most of the other tracks are pretty off the wall. And
Mhm.
so like, you know, you pick the more like, I guess, marketable ones. But the third single that comes out in December is like one of the stranger ones. It's like
Okay.
5 minutes and it goes all over the place.
Wow. Nice.
But yeah, I feel like picking singles is like some rise to the surface of like, okay, this is like probably the most accessible from the thing. And then all the other ones are like, I don't think anybody's going to like want a screamo single or whatever, but like it's fun though. I don't know. Like I still was pretty torn by it. Like we went through 3 or 4 ideas of like which songs to roll out first, and then like which ones just to drop in its entirety. And I think we picked the right ones, but I don't know. At the end of the day, it doesn't really even matter. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
So
Hello, Jackson.
with this album, because this is the sophomore album, I feel like once you drop that debut, the debut is like one of the hardest to figure out when it's time to kind of release it, right?
Yeah.
As you move forward from the debut to this new sophomore album, do you feel, or how do you feel that you've kind of evolved as a songwriter or even as a vocalist in this process?
I mean, it's more, I think with the first project, it was kind of like the greatest hits of like what we made during like the time or
Yeah.
whatever, and like we found a way to kind of like make it all gel like across the project. But this one like was like a lot more nuanced with like the writing and like having everything connect from front to back. Like we're normally like a singles group for the
Mhm.
most part. Like I mean, making albums is pretty hard, and honestly Spotify doesn't really reward that as
Yeah.
much, especially like at our level. But it was fun to kind of like go through and make sure that like all the songs like lined up thematically and like callbacks to earlier songs, and like making sure that the narrative went through. So it tested my writing quite a bit, and like I probably wrote 6 or 7 different versions of these songs
Yeah.
kind of throughout working on it. But the sounds too like are even more experimental. I think we really pushed ourselves to like our absolute limits, honestly. Like there's some moments on there that
Nice.
are like it took a while to get them to sound the way that they do now. So I think we did get pretty good at what we were aiming for.
Mm.
However, like I think now moving forward, I would like to keep some of the crazier stuff, but like you can only, there's a point that the music becomes unlistenable, and we kept
Yeah.
running into that like over and over again, like how to make a mess into a song rather
Yeah.
than making a song
Into
into
a
a
mess.
mess. Right?
Yeah.
It's way easier that direction. So I think we're approaching that type of approach now. So I think, but either way, with the sophomore album, I think I wanted to attack this thing with like a lot more. What's the word? I've said nuance like 3 times, but that really is the word.
I mean,
So,
if
like,
that's
yeah,
if
it
that's the
really
word,
is.
that's the
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you feel that you like? What challenged you on the creative process of this album? Was it kind of trying to figure out this mess to kind of be able to create the songs, or was it something else? Was it something vocally?
No, mainly it is just like the writing, because it's dealing with a lot of like existential
Yeah.
crisis stuff that doesn't really have a lot of good answers. And so like, you know, you don't want to make something like super preachy, but you want to make it very human. And so like I think a lot of that was like trying to really cover that and do it from my perspective. And obviously getting to the bottom of those themes the way that I see them when there's no real bottom to get to is like kind of hard to do. And I think the music that we made was also reflective of that. Like even the tracks themselves were very like existential to try to figure out how they should really even sound.
Yeah.
Like you could just keep making different versions, and like some would go to like a heavy hard style EDM thing, or like maybe we pull it back down to an R&B thing and like try to figure out like all that. So like the music definitely reflects the themes, I think, of like the bizarreness and the uncertainty of life, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and like there's a lot of like hedonistic type of things that are rolled in thematically as well. So it's just hard to write about shit like that because it's like there's no clear answer. So
No, exactly. At the same time, you mentioned that the record's actually done. So
yes.
what are the plans of the release? Is it something that fans can expect this year, or is it something for top of 2025?
Yeah, top of 2025. It'll come out around February, I believe, first or second week.
Okay.
I don't want to do a Valentine's Day drop. Not that it even matters, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't make a ton of sense. It's not a love song album by any means. So like,
I mean, you never know. It might be.
It could.
It might be to some people.
It could. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what your love life is like, but I pray for you if that's the case, because that shit is insane. But yeah, there's moments on there that are pretty wild. But either way, yeah, top of 2025, February 7th, I believe, is when it'll be. But don't quote me on that. But
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, more singles though between then. So yeah, if we have in December another song, and then January another one, and then we'll roll out the rest of it
Okay.
after that.
Dope. So I guess to close us off during the process of this album, or even just the 2 songs that we have so far, No Dice and Dogma, which one do you feel taught you something different or allowed you to experiment something that you haven't done before?
Well, No Dice funny enough, I think is probably like the spiritual successor to Sideways.
Mm.
Like I feel like we were trying to like throw like a lot of like electronic elements into like the rock sound and like have like
Yeah.
the 808s and like the outro and stuff, and find a way to like make those two sounds kind of hit on the same level of intensity. Because like a lot of more rock stuff, like the drums sometimes aren't the loudest thing. It's usually the
Mhm.
big guitars and stuff. But then we had to figure out how to make the electronic elements kind of gel with that. So probably learned quite a bit from that. But then Dogma too, I think like it's such a weird subject for like a lot of people. Like no one likes to talk about religion, even
Yeah.
myself. Like, I think it's kind of like you're gonna believe what you're gonna
It's a
believe or
tough
not
topic.
believe,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then like at the end of the day, like people like want to be objective about it, but at the end of the day, you have your own biases and stuff that you're never going to be able to like really crack until you go to therapy, which I've
Yeah.
learned. But figuring all that type of stuff out, I think like I had to learn how to approach topics and themes that require a lot of, once again, nuance, I guess, because
Mm.
like I don't know, I don't really feel like panning my audience over like my beliefs that are not even relevant to the song. Like I'd rather
Right.
just make it like really human, and I think the fan base is very indicative of that, because like I see all walks of life that come to my show, like all over the place, and it is like kind of interesting that like all the different walks of life still resonate with it, because it is kind of like a more human experience. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that I always want to like put at the forefront of, like, if you choose to read into the lyrics beyond just like the melody and the way it sounds, that element is always there.
Mm.
But like lyrics are secondary for a lot of people too. Like I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes most people don't even listen to the lyrics, but like if they do dig deeper and try to find what I'm trying to say, I hope that it does resonate just kind of across the board. You can't please everybody, but I think also too there's a way to like just really highlight relatable things that
Yeah.
most people can resonate with.
Yeah.
So that's probably what I learned from Dogma. And I've tackled some touchy subjects before. There's another song on this album called Sarah that was a really tough write. I actually had to bring some people in for that. Normally I write all the songs, but this one required a lot of care. So I'm excited for that one. I'm curious to see what people think of that.
Yeah. Sounds like a challenge regardless of,
It
of,
is.
of what track you release. I feel like the entire record was a challenge. So I'm glad that you kind of stepped up and did that for yourself, just because I feel like once you're out of this one, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of create or just even open up on different subjects
Oh,
on your
yeah.
future material. So congratulations so far with the success of the current releases, and definitely looking forward to this upcoming sophomore album. And you guys be sure to check out Your Neighbors. Dogma is out now. No Dice is out now, and new album dropping real soon. So thanks for watching on Front Row Live.